Hey guys, it's Nolen and Jason here with Plumbing Webmasters.
Howdy.
Today, I'm going to give two different titles. Do you want to buy leads or build a brand, or more specifically, do you want to buy plumbing leads or build a plumbing brand? You know, right. It doesn't sound as good. So no. Do you want to buy leads or build a brand?
That sounds better, but we want plumbing in there somewhere.
Yeah. It's category specific. So I first want to say that I don't have any problem with people buying leads at all. And I want to state a little bit more about it, because most people will say, will call me, and I've done this for so long, over a decade, talking to people. They'll other agencies and marketers have said, hey, you should do this, or you should do that, or this is the only best way to do it, and they're pushing their deal the hardest,
Right.
We go over brand building digitally to get leads through organic optimization, 70+%, mapping, reviews, reputation, website, organic, keywords, all that. So that builds a brand, gets the cheapest lead, but there's nothing wrong with buying a lead if the lead makes money for you, but the lead's going to make vastly less money, hundreds of percent, more to buy the lead than to get the digital lead off of organic SEO because you built a brand.
Right.
And then I'll tell the story, which you've heard me tell you before, about the guy who called that made me think about this. So a plumber calls up and says, and we'll relate this to contractor and company too here in a second. But So a plumber calls up and says, hey, I want to buy some leads. And I said, well, we can help you get leads, but we don't sell a lead like Home Advisor, Yelp, Angie's List, Thumbtack, or paid ads on Google or Facebook. We can do paid ads on Google and Facebook. We can't help you with the leads. Don't have any trouble with that or problem with that, but we can help you build your brand online to show up on Google, which is where most of those leads come from that you're wanting to buy.
Someone else built a brand. And I explained this to him over 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just real quickly. And he actually listened to me, which I'll give him credit for that. And he listened to me, and I said, so the difference is that if you go to one of these brands, they're up in ranking, and in their own right may have some people go directly to the website now, right? But they are up in ranking. A large percentage comes from that because the majority of homeowners that are looking for plumbing go to Google. Vast majority, I think 85+%. And then of that 85% populace going there, 70+% click on a non-paid item, which is organic or SEO, but that includes the map, the reputation reviews, and the stuff under the map, or if the map doesn't show up, that you didn't have to pay for to show up for. And it's quote unquote free. And if you have the strongest digital brand, which people refer to as SEO, you show up in ranking. Right.
At which point, because the vast majority of people are going here, it's vastly less expensive to pay for someone else's branded web presence to get a lead.
Yeah.
Because
when you're getting when you're buying that Home Advisor lead, you're subsidizing their SEO effort. You are paying for their marketing advertising for you to get that lead, and none of it's going to you.
Which can be okay. Like I will say that 90. I don't even want to talk about a percentage on it, and let's not even talk about Home Advisor specifically. No, it's fine. I'm just for the purpose of what I'm about to say, because I don't want to single any of these out or cause any problems. But if someone buys a lead, if a plumber buys a lead, those people that I speak to, I'm going to say about 90% of the time, maybe 85% of the time, hate all of the lead companies.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to single them.
They'll say, I pay X amount a month to whoever.
And I hate them.
And I hate them, but I can't stop.
But I can't stop doing it. I have to do it, or I have stopped and I will never do it again.
Yeah.
And my attitude towards it is, hey, it's okay to buy a lead. It's just, in my opinion, it's not okay not to build the brand.
Right.
Unless you agree that you're not a company. So, and so the guy that called, he listened to what I said. I said, hey, we can help you build a brand to get a lead. What people refer to as SEO. And I say what people refer to as SEO is because they screw it up horribly. I don't. they have misinterpreted it due to propaganda or just information out there.
Right.
So search engine optimization is really just about building a good brand online with digital signaling so it gets graded by the algorithm, determines where you're going to show up on all the non-paid items. That's it. The maps, which again, people screw that up too. Yes, that's an organic.
Yeah, your map and your Google business profile popping up on the sidebar, those are 100% organic places.
Organic, or what you might understand as SEO-able.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you can...
Those are there because of SEO. That's how you get them.
Yeah, not only that, you'll have a hard time getting it up there as much as you want without it, and maybe already perplexed as to why you're not up there because you even got reviews and stuff. It's because it's not just a one-trick pony deal. And once something's not a one-trick pony deal, like throwing an ad on a billboard or Yellow Pages or a door hanger or a wrap on a truck, that's just one thing, and it's just a direct result. Once it's not a direct result, it's algorithmic through Google's algorithm,
right.
And that's, in our case, white hat, legitimately manipulatable,
yeah,
which would be called SEO. And Google wouldn't like the term.
They wouldn't like the term manipulatable.
But that's, but I guess we're helping, if you want to look at it from the organic term, we're helping the farmer grow a better plant or the business without using pesticides or growth hormones.
There you go.
Just
Good
like
analogy.
Just like we're helping the business owner show up better in ranking,
right,
without cheating against Google's webmaster guidelines.
Right.
Right. So that's what we're doing. Like, yeah, the farmer can go out and water the plant and bring in natural manure and till the soil and talk to it and all that kind of stuff, Maybe that's maybe not.
I'm sure there's somebody doing that.
You've heard that before, right? Talking to plants. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I actually had a conversation with a client earlier this week. Plumber, he had called in just for an update, wanted to know how his optimization was doing, how things were developing. He's been with us 3 months.
Yep.
And I went in, got into Search Console Analytics and everything, and I said, oh, this is good, because he is rank 1 for his name,
right,
and gets a lot of impressions on it, which means he's getting a lot of branded search. And it was like for top of Search Console, rank 1, most impressions, everything, his name, and then after that, about 5 of his primary keywords he wants.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it wasn't a lot of traffic yet or a lot of impressions on those keywords yet. But what that meant is, we've talked about this entity thing before.
Yeah.
In Google algorithm, is they don't focus on keywords as much as entities. And it's like, in his case, his business, because it had that branded search and had that ranking for that word, right, his business had become an entity within Google's algorithm.
Right.
And the other stuff showing up with it indicated that they had associated those entities with the entity of his business, cool, which is extremely good. Yeah. And I told him, I said, this is great. Keep doing your pins, because he was doing them. And I was like, you are set up to take off very shortly. Your traffic's already rising.
Long had it been?
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, he's been with us 95 days.
So he's already getting some results, and it's about to explode, basically.
Yeah, he is poised as the season gets kicking.
Let me explain my version of that, because I think I do a good job of helping people understand, because I talk to our potential clients each day. People heard of a synonym, different ways to say different words, but that's really in the same genre exactly of that word. Like if the word's good or better, or if it's, I don't know, hot or whatever the synonym for it is, it's directly associated. But Google has something called LSI, or latent semantic indexing, and since the concept has changed to an entity. And if you can imagine a plumber having a bucket of words that's synonymous with plumbing. So whether it's a clogged or a leaky drain or
associated with plumbing, in some cases.
Associated with plumbing, clogs, slab leaks, toilet repair, etc. Yeah. So camera line-ins, inspections, and all this stuff in this bucket of words associated with it, which is associated with the entity of plumbing.
Right.
Now, in the case that Jason's talking about, what you didn't pick up there, which I find fascinating, is that this gentleman is doing other marketing. Otherwise, people would not search for his branded name on Google.
Yeah.
Now, if he wasn't working on his digital web presence, so he's doing print or truck wraps, wrap trucks or something. Yeah. And so people are going online and searching his company's name. Now, if he hadn't had a concerted web effort started, Google wouldn't even know where to attribute the branded search to. So
you'd put it in and Google will be like, well, we don't know who this is.
We don't really know who this is.
This doesn't exist as far as we're concerned.
It could be the guy with this Google business profile, but it's so sloppily put together we can't really give credit to this branded searching to any entity or to any brand. So he's building his brand through correlation, through entity, through many different things. And I will get to this because this is, we did a similar podcast the other day, but these are fascinating if people just listen to what's going on here, because this is critical to you not being a contractor that's running around in a pickup truck if you want to build a brand to become a real company that actually profits really well.
Right.
So, so he's doing other marketing, and he needs to do all of it together, because ultimately whatever else he's doing pales in comparison to what he's about to experience on Google.
Right.
It is about to blow the hinges off the door of what he's doing.
The traffic graph was already accelerating and doing this.
Yeah. So
I was like, you are about to get slammed, buddy.
I want to state again, I don't have a problem with someone having a billboard, a radio ad, a wrap truck, a yellow page ad. I will tell you definitively from doing this for 12 years that there is no way in hell it will have the return on investment as when he dominates on Google for hundreds to thousands of keywords on mapping and organic, and his reputation and reviews all combined.
And in fact, as you made the point a moment ago, that other stuff actually aids in him dominating on Google.
It does.
It creates the branded search. It makes people begin to be aware of him, so that they start entering that branded search, and then Google's like, well, who's that? Oh, wait, there's a website here. There's a Google business profile here. Oh, that must be the same guy. Oh, he's a plumber, so we stick that over here. He's in this category, and he relates to all this stuff.
Right, and how does he relate to all that stuff? Because of the website and content and everything that we put together that relates into pins and all the other things that are going on.
Right.
So I don't hate some of the other marketing for multiple reasons. If he's in a Valpak, and he's got wrap trucks, let's say, and that's his business model right now, that pales in comparison to what he's going to get. But and if you just looked at the Valpak, it's like, I hate this, kind of. Although it makes a little bit of money. You know, I spend $4,000 a month for these 4 zip codes, or 2 or whatever. I don't know. I haven't priced that.
I don't know Valpak pricing.
I haven't priced that in eons, but let's say that's what it is. 3 zip codes, $4,000 a month. He's dropping Valpak. And the guy knows that he only makes like a 2 times return on it. It kind of stinks. And he knows that probably just disappears in other crap and expenses in the company.
Right.
So he's got that there, but that branded search is pulling extra weight for his organic presence.
Yeah.
So
all behind the scenes.
All behind the scenes. So a couple of things on the organic branded presence can help. I do want to state too, though, before somebody gets lost in hearing all this crud,
it's pretty arcane.
It doesn't. I'm going to make some points towards the end of this, but we charge people, still to this day, less than $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
For all the stuff that we do. I'm not saying it won't change. There's been a lot of inflation lately, but we're just barely less than $1,000 a month on stuff right now. And I say that because you hear all this stuff, and I think that people start to think it's too complicated or I can't do that. So we do all of the stuff for the client, except the client getting pins through data pins,
which is super easy.
Which is 2 minutes, super easy, ludicrously easy. So we do all the rest of it for somebody, and then some guy has some wrap trucks and pays for this or that. And they're already doing that anyway. You guys are already doing this stuff. So the part that we're bringing to the table is not complicated. We're just explaining all of it, portions of it that we do and how it operates. So understand that this is not complicated, and this is not something that costs $5,000 or $10,000 or anywhere near any of that. This guy may just have wrap trucks in his neighborhood, For all I know, I've got a guy in my neighborhood. He's not a client, and he has wrap trucks. He's got this great slogan and little otter like.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It is cool, but anyway, so
yeah, a lot of this weird esoteric technical stuff we talk about entities and association.
We're doing
this.
That
yeah, we're doing that. That happens invisibly to you guys as a result of what we're doing. And when you get all the pieces in place, it starts to happen and it hits a critical mass and takes off.
Yeah.
But it's not like you have to go there and sit there and move all this stuff in place yourself. We do that part.
Right. It's not a complicated thing. We're just describing the components. So this guy that called ended the conversation like that. Nolen, I hear you, but I like it when I can buy leads, and if I get busy, I shut it off. And if I want more, I start it back up again. And I thought about it, and I left. And at very least, I knew that he was not a client. But my brain keeps working on this stuff, and I either later that day or the next day, probably the next morning, I'll wake up and I'll think about these things. It's like, I know that I couldn't have done anything else with that guy, and had I tried, it would have been futile. And I didn't want to waste my time.
Right.
Because he was resolute in that. He was, and that's one of the big problems with people. Like, if you have somebody like myself that got on the phone with you, it's like, it's not dumb to stop for a second. You know, maybe the moment went by too quick to realize that you should have a conversation because you have someone with some sort of extreme expertise. You know,
right.
But he wasn't in a place to listen. He wanted a lead, and he was going to live or die by that lead. The problem with it is, and I thought, could I have spoken differently? I said, no, he wouldn't have listened, but he's not a company.
Right.
And because he's unwilling to build a brand. So who I was talking to was not a client. So ultimately, and it's really important for someone to understand this to me, because it's not, I don't care. I didn't really judge this guy beyond.
I mean, he knows what he wants.
He knew what he wanted. I didn't judge the guy beyond, can you become a client, work with us? And part of it is, you know, you have to have a certain education level. If anybody's listening to these podcasts, they're educating themselves continually.
Right.
This guy hadn't done that, at least to this point in his life, for him to be able to have an educated conversation with me about how to get leads better. And when I say better, I mean vastly better. And this guy wanted to work with his own two hands, or managing some people with their own hands, which to me makes him a contractor, a subcontractor, or at best a general contractor, or a contractor with some that's barely above that with some other skills like management of a few people.
Right.
So he's a skilled tradesman or contractor that has a few extra skills. So he might manage a couple of people, but he is not a company, and he's not building a brand. And because he's not building a brand, he's not a company.
Yeah. If he had, I mean, let's just say that he had that same set of desires, that he wanted to be able to get a lead. He wanted to be able to not do a job if he didn't feel like it that day, or if he was too busy.
Right.
If he had stepped back and taken a look at it, he could have realized, well, when I don't want to take any more leads, I can simply change my voicemail to say, I'm sorry, we're unavailable right now.
Right.
And I would be paying less and making more money. And I'm not saying necessarily you should make a habit of not taking calls, but if you only want to work part-time, let's just say that's your thing, that doesn't preclude what he wanted to do, didn't preclude what we do, but his approach to it.
But he didn't want to be a company.
Yeah, he didn't want to adapt.
He didn't want to
become a company. He just wanted to go out and get a gig, get paid.
He could hire someone to answer the phones. He could create systems and procedures. He could hire some plumbers under him. He could make way more money, have more freedom. You called a plumber today to update a credit card, and he was on a golf course in California.
He was on the golf course yesterday when I called him.
Yesterday.
This morning I got him first thing.
Okay, but yesterday he was on the golf course.
Yeah.
And that man is definitely a businessman. and definitely owns a company and definitely builds a brand.
Absolutely.
And the guy that we're talking about, when he's not busy enough, he gets more leads. And when he's busy, literally physically busy, performing labor, then he does more. He doesn't want leads.
Right.
The guy that you called, that's on the golf course, has systems, procedures, a brand, and a company.
And other people working for him to take those leads if he can't personally handle them. If he even still personally does jobs. I don't know if the guy I talked to is still actually
There's no way the guy you spoke
into
to
crawl space.
This is a very I don't know how to describe him, but the guy was very professional.
Yeah.
Very professional.
Yeah. He has graduated from technician to full-on entrepreneur.
Yeah. Presumably makes enough money to play golf.
Yeah, he was in a golf tournament.
Yeah.
In California, no less.
Right.
So
sounds expensive.
Yeah.
And nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's kind of what we're driving at, and it's like, no offense, there's the world takes all types, so somebody's got to do that work, and somebody's got to be. Not everybody can be the company and be that brand. But I will tell you that way more you guys could do it than you think, and it doesn't take much to beat most of the brands that are up there, because they don't do a proper job of branding the company. Google just puts up there the best that they can find.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. If you see some company that has been around forever and they're always in the top for anything, there's a decent chance that they're up there only because nobody has done a better job. It doesn't mean they're doing the best job. It means that nobody else has done better.
Jason, there's a vast majority chance that from our experience and what we see, that they are resting on their laurels and do a horrific job of their branding and marketing.
Oh yeah, very high chance.
There's so many, let me make this statement. There's so many of them that there's room in almost every market to hit Pac 3 mapping and get primary rankings.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in a town like the size of Dallas, where we're in Dallas-Fort Worth, there's probably 3 people gunning for the Pac 3.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't get in there enough to make plenty of money, but it's harder in some of those places.
Yeah.
You can still get plenty of keywords up, and stuff like data pins will help you with literally thousands of long tail keywords. And we bring in people. There's a guy that we have in Fort Worth that started not too long ago, year and a half ago. You know who I'm talking about? I think his name's Nick. I don't want to say the company name.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Done like hundreds and hundreds of pins, gets a lot of calls.
He's also aggressive with other forms of marketing, does other stuff to build that brand awareness. Yeah.
Right. So I want to talk about some other aspects of this. People, business owners, entrepreneurs, I personally think it's important to be honest with yourself about who you are. So are you wanting to be a contractor only? I hear people say this too. Oh, I only want just a little bit. I only want half of that. There's no really good way to half-step being an entrepreneur or a company. You can limit the growth possibly a little bit, depending on the size of the market and all that sort of stuff. There's limitations within a marketplace, I think, or within a specialty. But if you don't go for it, you probably won't make it there. And if somebody wants to be, and when somebody's wanting to be a company, or have a company and have a brand, I don't think I'm talking about somebody having 100 trucks or necessarily even 20 trucks most of the time. I'm mainly probably, most of these guys end up with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks.
Yeah, it's a mindset more than anything else.
It is.
I was talking to a guy the other day, and I had trouble relating to what he was saying to me because we're in Texas. Yeah. He's in the Northeast. And he told me, well, I don't want to drive. And we had set a certain service area for him.
Right.
And he was actually calling to complain that it was too large.
Oh.
And he was like, I don't want to drive more than 15 minutes.
I don't blame him over there.
And I mean, I get it on one hand, but I'm from the wide open spaces of Texas. And
yeah, but plumbers and HVAC have to bill by the hour for the test.
And I'm like, okay, because here, the plumbers or HVAC guys we have here, they'll drive 2 hours.
They will, but it's a little different, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, just the fact it was like, but 15 minutes is a short drive. Yeah. That to me was damaging to his business.
But he was getting enough business to limit it sounds like, to limit the...
He's fairly new, so I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in a densely populated area, so hopefully, yeah. But it was weird to hear that, because it was like, that's strange that you want to limit it that much.
I don't know. I don't know if that is up there. I don't know if it's dumb or not. They can cross state lines, and they have county issues, and it's they have all kinds of stuff going on with regulation and stuff. I think he might have had other problems there.
True.
But yeah, so someone admit what they want to do. We help companies. We help. Right. We also, by the way, humbly help a contractor become a company and build a brand.
We love doing that.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not, we're not saying that we want to work with somebody who's already a company, already has a brand. In fact, that's our number one thing we do is to build a brand. We hope that that person is cognitive and conscious of this situation so that they'll work on that. And if somebody just works on it and is aware of what's going on, usually within as little as 3 or 4 months, they are starting to do well, like the guy you referenced.
You're starting to see the result.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take very long. It might take a little longer, like 5 or 6 months if there's no website, no Google. If there's no web presence at all, it might take a few more months to get happy, what I call happy, but doesn't mean they won't get leads way before that. The guy that Jason spoke to was already getting some leads, I'm sure.
But yeah, he's told me flat out, he goes, I've noticed an increase.
Oh, good.
So he was very happy. He just called he was kind of wanting me to verify for him that the increase he was seeing had something to do with what we were doing with the pins he was doing and everything else. He wanted to get that.
Pretty sure.
That kind of connection between the two so that he could be reassured about, what he was doing with his marketing.
Well, that's what I tell most people when I'm on the phone with them. I said, if they've already had a web presence up for a year, and let's say they have 10 Google reviews, the conversation usually goes, well, if you want to know what to expect, usually within several months in, 3 or 4 months in, assuming you get a few hundred pins and get a few more reviews or 150 pins or something, and you do them well, with it combined with everything else we do, and of course the software for the pins that we produce that's proprietary, you should look over your shoulder and be happy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this guy may have gotten results in the first week after it was spidered for extra content,
right?
But he wouldn't have noticed it that week or the next week,
or
the next week. He would have noticed it after he'd done a few things and it rose even more. And within 2 or 3 months in, 3 or 4 months in, he looked over his shoulder at about 90 days and said, I think I'm better off than I was.
Feels like I'm busier.
I'm busier, but I don't know so then you can go into analytics and show hundreds of % increases, hundreds of more keywords being tracked by Google in the top, whatever,
Yeah.
This all comes down to how somebody views their business. This comes down to taking responsibility. Like finding a good agency like us, and there's not really hardly any.
Right.
We are one of a few. It is about you managing your money, your professional relationships, your brand, thinking about your business as a brand and a company, and I'll stop here and say, I do a lot of hat wearing in the business still.
Yeah.
I am not the kind of guy to delegate out everything. I'm not telling these guys to go get receptionists and offices and all that
Personal assistants and whatnot.
I'm not telling you to do any of that stuff or to get a bigger and fancier car or truck because you think it'll look better. I think all that stuff is nonsense. I think the expenses for the business should be ludicrously low. What I'm telling people to do is and the stuff that I ask people to do is cheap. Once you license in the state and all of that, and you have your insurance, the marketing's not going to cost you more than a grand or less for organic and design code content, pages, reputation reviews, software for that. That's not going to cost much. And then you might pay for leads and you might spend $1,000 to $10,000 for those leads or paid advertising, but most people spend a couple thousand more.
Yeah.
And eventually not have to pay for that at all, which most people do. But you view it like that, and you focus on those things, and you view them as important, and you look for credible, good professional relationships and have this stuff done and actually work on it, as opposed to villainizing things, acting unsure of stuff, not knowing what's going on out there because you put forth no effort towards it.
Yeah.
Thinking you cannot do it because you're new and other people have been around, or they must spend $10,000, or all these false narratives that I hear that people come up with.
If someone's showing up number one in SEO in your area, let's just say you're starting a new plumbing company and you got some guy who's been around forever, and you see him coming up number one in organic, he's not spending $10,000.
Yeah.
If you see him show up in ads, he might be spending $10,000. But we're not talking about ads. We're talking about organic. If he's coming up in organic, he's might be spending $2,000. You know, and so if you come on and spend under $1,000 with us, that guy doesn't have data pins. He doesn't have our services, probably. And
he doesn't stand a chance from a signaling standpoint, but may not be ousted from his perch immediately.
Yeah, no, he won't immediately fall to nothing. There's a lot of grandfathering and a lot of tenure stuff that happens.
Right.
But so you may not knock him off of that top spot in 6 months, but you may get the 2 or 3 spot, which is a place you can build on.
Right.
You know, you may get in the 3-pack.
Well, if they do pins properly, they'll get hundreds, if not thousands, of long tail keywords.
That top spot is precarious. Sometimes it seems like someone's up there and they're unassailable, but that top spot is precarious and you can knock them off.
So I want to make a point too that I think somebody could consider themselves a company. I'm not talking about the state designation of someone having a corporation or an LLC. I don't consider that someone in a company. Somebody can have an LLC and
anybody can go on rocketlawyer.com and start an LLC.
Yeah, they're a company technically, but they're not really a company. Yeah. And I'm not talking about the definition of a large entity through like IRS where it's 500 people or something. But if you're talking to your plumber, I think you can have 2 people and be a company, because of mindset and the direction, the growth you're taking towards it. I think you can have 10 people and be a contractor.
Right.
So if you have just 2 people, I would think you'd grow. I don't, you might eventually end up with 7, 8, 10, 12 people and have a nice company that has some redundancies so you can take a vacation and make a healthy profit. But I think you can be a company at 2 people and be working that direction. 1 person, no. But I just wanted to state that I'm not talking about stuff with 100 people or 20 people or anything like that. Someone can have mentality properly and start with 2 people and say, I am making actions and activities like I am a company that cares about my brand, that's going to grow into something that's fantastic, that makes healthy profits and helps me accomplish my entrepreneurial dreams. And I'm legitimately doing things pretty properly. I want to state, after saying all these things, that I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time and then attempt to fix them and do better. And so you can make mistakes, you can screw this stuff up, but I guess when I say stuff like that, I'm referring to people that come out and they yell, they're petty about stuff, they blame everything on other people, they don't ever really try, they never really pay for proper marketing.
Yeah.
I
also think it's important to mention that when you're saying we're not talking about 100, employee entity or something, Google doesn't really care about that either. They don't care that you're a big company. You can be two people and it's fine.
They don't know.
They don't really know.
They
don't care. It's not information they look for.
Yeah.
If you're a plumber, you've probably noticed if you search for plumbing in your area, unless there are no local independent plumbers doing any digital marketing, you will notice that the franchise guys don't show up at the top.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time.
And there's a reason for that, is because these kind of services are highly localized. Google favors a local provider. Now, you could say a franchise is a local provider, but they're tied to a national entity. So they automatically get a little bit
depends on the structure, and they favor a local provider because the user intent is to find a local provider.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Google, I know you know.
I just wasn't taking it that far down the chain.
I'm aware that you know this, but they'll make exceptions sometimes for like a Roto-Rooter franchise.
Yeah.
So if but the problem with their franchises is they usually screw up their marketing.
Well, their marketing is usually handled by home office that doesn't know how to do local properly.
No.
Because all of the home office's people are focused on national level SEO, which is radically different.
It's radically
and
different.
they don't know how to optimize for the local.
So what the plumbers don't know that they should know, because I think that these false narratives that get trumped up in someone's head that they cannot do it, that they're not big enough. The actual Google favors the small local guy because it syncs up with the user intent is to find a reputable small local company.
And as you mentioned, that's because Google has determined, based on user action on Google search, that most users would prefer a local guy.
Correct. That's because when people call the national companies, they get screwed on pricing and don't have as good a customer service for people working for them.
Right.
That's pretty typical, not always. I'm going to give an example of this because I found this one fascinating. So not only can you get up in ranking, you can many times beat the national companies that sell the leads.
Yeah.
The reason the national companies, people don't always believe me on this, but it's true. And you'll find our clients, because we've done this for 12 years, you'll find our clients outranking, and I'm not going to mention their names on this one, but they will.
The lead guys, you know who they are.
The three lead guys.
Yeah.
So they'll be, those guys show up in the top three. Not always. They show up in top three because Google will make a concession sometimes, let's just, for like a Roto-Rooter, and I'm not even going to mention this on leads, or they'll make a concession to show a mixture. Every once in a while, they will show like a Roto-Rooter, or they will show leads because user intent might be to have some choice. So, but people will misinterpret this and say all that shows up is the 2 or 3 lead people, 1, 2, and 3. But that's because there hasn't been a local small business that was worthy of showing up.
Yeah. If we've got a potential client or a new client and we do a search in there for their local area and all that's showing up is the lead guys, I'm like, that is an opportunity because Google is waiting for a local guy to show.
To have a good enough web presence to show above.
Right.
And a lot of our guys, once they get going, will show above. I can't guarantee this is going to happen because we don't own Google.
Google is fickle.
Yeah, and I always tell people that, but you can optimize that. The user intent is to show local. I'm going to go one step further, and this is interesting, but it's going to be on a auto repair.
Okay.
But this is really interesting stuff. So we years ago did an auto repair shop, and we don't really work in that category anymore. But it was an AMCO transmission shop. And I'm not even going to give the city, but it was it was in a suburb outside of Dallas, which, by the way, guys, there's like 60, so you can't really find it. So it was in a city that was large on the outskirts of Dallas, which there's tons of them. And the guy was upset because corporate gave him a website, and it was a duplicate content website set up poorly and didn't work well.
Right.
But the corporate site wouldn't show up well either. And so he was upset by it. The corporate site didn't show up well because user intends to find a local company.
Right.
But AMCO transmission shops and their brilliance let all the local people have a local URL, which they probably own, but like AMCO transmission, then the cityname.com.
Right.
So they have this with a separate website in addition to being listed on the corporate website. But remember, user intends to find a local company, and technically the AMCO transmission is a local company.
Yeah.
This is possibly a whole podcast, but I'll explain it really quickly on it because it's fascinating and it's important for people to understand how and why people show up and what user intent is, and it all ties in the brand. Remember, this is not as complicated as we're making it sound because we do all this crap for you. So anyway, we got that guy to show up.
Yeah.
Corporate found out that we were doing the site. And had us quit working on it. Now, the same company, AMCO, has a transmission shop that's local in Dallas and the corporate. So I'm going to explain how the rankings are today. I looked at this the other day. I don't know if I told you about it.
Yeah, you didn't.
I use this example when I'm talking to people when they start talking about going regional and stuff like that because it gets all jacked up.
Yeah.
But so that transmission shop that's an AMCO is specifically meant for this one city. And that guy's number one for like transmission repair, rebuild in this city on his individual site in the suburb that's not as big as Dallas, pretty big town, but not as big as Dallas.
Right.
AMCO is like number 4 or 8, depending on the day.
Like the AMCO corporate?
The corporate one underneath that. So you search for, and I'm not talking, you're not searching for AMCO. You're searching for, I'm searching for a general keyword like transmission rebuild in this city TX.
Right.
He's in the Pack 3 map. He's number 1 organic, and AMCO's either number 4, between 4 and 8. Now, they satisfy the GBP, the Google Business Profile, the locality, the unique website tied to local city. Get all the organic they can possibly get. Mapping, organic keywords, reputation reviews. The guy, the AMCO site, which is not proper user intent, but has credibility in that category, is still listed as a user intent potential choice.
Right.
To give quality choice to the user on Google, but is clearly not as relevant to what the user's looking for.
Right.
Therefore, low.
Yeah. Therefore, out of the top 3.
Which, by the way, for all the lead companies, same. For all your stuff in the plumbing industry, for the national franchises, same.
Right.
All right. So you go over to Dallas, and this is where it gets more fascinating to me. And you type in you type in transmission repair Dallas TX or transmission rebuild, and an AMCO dealer, different one, with his unique website and his unique stuff is number 1 organically. However, AMCO corporate is gone and back on page 3.
Because there's a lot more transmission repair in Dallas.
Because there's more choices.
Okay.
And yeah, so yeah, and it's fascinating. Yeah. So AMCO. So even though user intent might make Google think, well, not Google know that they might want to see a national company, but not as much as local, it lets them put them up higher on the suburb with less transmission shop choices. But once you go to Dallas that has 7 times more choices, 5 times more choices, it drops to page 3. But why? Because users really don't want to see it that badly, and there's so many great local options to show.
Right.
Which, by the way, supports the fact that we're saying that you will out-optimize lead companies. Why? Because it isn't really what they wanted to see. People get upset with Plumber, and like, we didn't even touch upon this. So if you don't mind explaining why a branded lead is so vastly superior to a bot lead.
Yeah. Not even counting the fact that the bot lead is probably sold to multiple people.
Right.
The branded lead is someone who has found you, possibly already gone to your website, seen the picture of your family or your crew or whatever. They're half sold.
Right.
And the number one, that lead was already cheaper. Your branded lead was already an order of magnitude cheaper than the bot lead.
Right.
And it's a hotter lead.
Right.
There's no way in which it's not better. The only way the bot lead is better is that it's easier to get. It's a simple transaction. Here's some money. You have a lead.
Give me a lead. Yeah. So
it requires no other thought.
So these guys know this, but sometimes you'll show up to a plumbing job and there'll be 5 people there bidding it.
Yeah.
And so when you call to get a lead, in fact, the premise of the relationship to the client that you're trying to get is that they know that they're going to be given a bunch of contractors or companies, you know, and they know that those are going to come out there, and you know that too, and that's why it frustrates you.
Right.
But when somebody finds your brand online and they've looked at reviews and reputation, and by the way, statistically 50% of them would have gone to your website. That's roughly half the traffic.
Yeah.
That is that not saying they're not going to shop, but most of them don't.
Well, the thing is, most of them have already done their shopping.
That is the shopping.
And a lot of the time, they have already done their shopping, or at least a portion of it, and they've made a choice.
Many of these guys haven't even ever experienced what we're talking about.
Yeah.
To have a company with a real brand, to where the leads come through, they already trust and want your company.
Yeah. It's not you calling a lead and hoping they still need service and hoping that you have the best price out of the other 4 people that called them or whatever.
Right.
That's somebody calling you, requesting you come out right now and fix whatever it is.
So another thing about this lead, the ones they bought, they're not a loyal client. They're less likely to become a repeat client.
Right.
They buy and they're vicious. Somebody finds you and becomes a repeat client, A, you're going to get more money from them because they didn't shop you to death. And then B, they're going to become a repeat client much better. Right. There's so many auxiliary benefits. When you talk about...
I was actually going to make the point a minute ago when you were talking about the national level marketing for you were talking about a franchise, which is why I didn't bring it up.
Right.
But for a lead selling company, their marketing is not focused on you, the service provider. Their marketing is focused on the customer,
right?
Who they want the customer coming to them, not going to Google search to find something.
Well, they don't want them
but
to
coming
ever go.
Because they don't show up,
right.
Which we've already talked about.
Right.
But they want them to go to their website,
right.
sign up as a member, and then they say, oh, I need this. Oh, well, these, and then they sell that lead to 5 guys.
Yeah, that lead buyer's allegiance is to the brand of the lead giver.
Because they got them a good discount.
Right.
They got them the cheap provider.
Right.
And that forces your prices down.
Well, it makes them more stressed out, forces your prices down. You don't get repeat business. It makes working just loathsome.
Yeah. But when you work on that brand and someone has found you in the map pack or Google search, called you and said, I'm standing in ankle deep water. How soon can you get here? That's the easiest sale of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, most of these guys don't do the restoration work, but
I meant the plumbing fix part.
The plumbing fix part. They get
okay, my toilet is spewing to the ceiling. Please come out when you
maybe.
Get here.
Yeah, the ankle deep water is the ambulance call to the water restoration company.
Or I went out on my front porch today and there's a crack and water's coming out of it.
That's pretty messed up.
Yeah,
God.
Can you get here in an hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually had a panicky moment the other day. We had some rain. And it took an inordinately long time for my porch to dry. And I started thinking, oh, crap. And then I kind of stepped back and said, oh, I'm on a pier and beam, you dumbass.
It just...
So I can't have a slab leak because I'm on a pier and beam. But yeah, I had that, oh, shit, slab leak moment and then realized I can't possibly.
Probably just humidity and condensation.
Yeah, it was just, I just have a really smooth... And I've got a covered porch, and so the sun doesn't hit.
Sometimes we'll hit a weird dew point where the condensation makes you feel like you have a leak.
Yeah, you'll walk out on your porch in the morning, and it's slick, it's just wet.
Yeah,
there was no rain.
All right, so if I had to leave it here and sum up, I'd like to encourage anybody listening to work on a company and a brand. Don't be scared of what these things are. Assume that the things that you have in your mind that might have prevented you from having a properly run marketing campaign and company is a false narrative that you have that isn't true, that you can be the guy on the golf course if you want to be, or somewhere in between.
Yeah. You can't jump from nowhere to there, but you can get there.
Yeah, I think with as little as one person, you can confidently and proudly say, I have a plumbing company.
Yeah. I hate sounding like a self-help guru, but a lot of your obstacles are entirely in your head.
Well, they are. I mean, we deal with that all the time, and it's all in the head. It's very difficult for the plumber to parcel the marketing stuff from our industry. Yeah. There's so much false propaganda stuff out there, and that's we should do one on false propaganda. That'd
be good. That's a podcast series by itself.
So I understand it, but it's okay. Continue to learn. It's your responsibility to market your brand, to be consistent, to be professional, willingness to learn and change, set up procedures. I didn't go into the sale is the first thing. You know, the reason branding should be number one in your head is because the sale is the paramount thing. Regardless, the lead is the first thing. To get the lead, you have to market. To even get a referral or a repeat client, you would have marketed to get a lead. Right. So don't get lost in the semantics of the stuff. Yeah, you can get repeat clients, but you didn't get those without proper marketing. You get the best leads through branding. So you brand and market to get leads. The leads become a sale. The sale produces income, which is resources for human resources, expertise, trucks, equipment, and people running the business. And you cannot become a company without that standpoint. So any other view of it is wrong, in my opinion. So the reason I run a marketing company is because I had a home security company and it never made money unless the leads were cheap. So it didn't make money unless the leads were cheap, and I got plenty of them. I could get leads, but if they were too expensive, I failed.
Right.
End of story, which, by the way, is the same thing we're talking about here. If you buy leads, that's the other part of it. You might not fail, but you'll have a pretty bad life. So if you buy leads, you'll have a bad life. If you build a brand, the leads will get cheaper.
Right.
Whether or not even Google stays around 20 years from now, this concept won't change.
Yeah, there'll be something in its place, and this will all be applicable.
It'll be applicable. So if you build your brand, you'll have a life. If you don't, it'll be a rough life. I can tell you from experience, I literally sensed it early on, and after my time in home security came to an end, where I did 20,000+ sales and installs, I got into marketing digitally, and this has been and still is the best place for you to get a return on investment. And if you cannot get a cheap enough lead, you will not have a great life. And if you cannot build a brand, you will not get a cheap lead. End of story. And you cannot build the brand properly without it being integrated fully through digital.
Right.
The guy he was talking about earlier, that Jason was talking about, had a brand building going on, but the building of the brand portion that he was doing was most likely expensive with a poor return on investment, which, by the way, and I don't even have to know any of this because I'm 49, I've done this shit forever. He called us to fix the damn problem.
Yeah.
Which we were tasked to do.
We took all his effort he'd already put in, we added the digital component, and boom.
We fixed it.
Yeah.
His portion is low return on investment. His problem is evident. I mean, I can look at people and tell what their problem is. I told you the other day, this is off. I like these last two podcasts we've done, by the way. This one's fantastic, I think. But I was in a condo taking a work vacation.
Yeah.
And I had this new Samsung frame TV. And I decided not to get cable because it's problematic to get cable here and to deal with it with people that come and go from the condo. And they had this channel that they have old school commercials. The first thing you do when you hit Samsung TV is Chef Ramsay comes up, either Kitchen Nightmares or Hell's Kitchen. So I watched crap tons of Gordon Ramsay just railing people. And I mean, I'd watch it at night. I'm like, I got to quit watching this. I can't go to sleep, but I'd watch it in the morning and watch it if I had a little break, and I'd watch it. And I grew to really love the guy from the standpoint of like his expertise level is, I think people like him because he spits truth and do that. And I feel like that a little bit when I'm like looking at people or dealing with a client, Yeah. I try not to.
You're not as harsh as Chef Ramsay.
No. I think that they would probably kick my ass.
They'd show up at the office.
Yeah. But so I'm watching it and I'm like, it really helped people a lot, but his level of expertise is crazy when he goes through and does it all. But everybody can do this if they want to, but they won't have a company unless they do it. I wish I'd have said this earlier in the podcast, but it's critical that you build the brand. If you don't build the brand, if
there's no brand, there's no company.
There's no company and there's no life. People, hopefully the plumber is an entrepreneur as well. The plumber's not always an entrepreneur. The plumber's sometimes just a contractor.
Right.
That became a contractor that happened to hang a shingle and start a company. But just because they started the company doesn't mean they're still not a contractor. But if you don't want to be that guy that is broke down, unable to retire, can't do it, and still literally turning the wrench. There's nothing wrong with it, but ultimately you don't want to be that guy to the bitter end.
You mentioned the guy local, Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
That does well.
Yeah.
I had a conversation
He probably still goes out, but he's young and still working the business.
He does less now, actually. That's what I was actually getting at.
Okay.
I had a conversation with him, I guess, 6 months ago. he had hit this point where he had a bunch of work coming in, but he didn't have any help on the running the business end. He was having trouble finding people to do that. So he hired an extra guy, an extra tech to go out and do jobs.
And he runs the business.
And he stepped back.
Wow.
And he said, I've never been this profitable and this successful until I was able to hit that point and do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he what you just said, he forced himself to do it because he was worried about not being out in the field at first.
Right.
And he hit a point where he didn't have a choice. And then he realized that his better destiny, so to speak, was running the business.
I feel compelled to say something to anyone listening to all this long. I want to state that I still do your equivalent of turning a wrench here at the office.
Yeah.
I still do stuff. So, and you've got to be really careful. This guy's running his business and making a profit.
Yeah,
today.
He didn't step back, delegate everything, and sip Mai Tais all day.
I'm not talking about just that. You can just hire too many people and kill the profit margin. You're going to work your business.
He essentially stepped back into the kind of the role you have.
Yeah.
He wasn't going out and doing he wasn't turning wrenches at houses anymore.
Business coaches, other business people that don't really own a business will consult me nicely. I think they mean it. Most people don't give me advice anymore unless they're above my stuff or I've asked for advice. I'm just to that age now. But they'll say, oh, you should delegate this or delegate that, like sales, for example.
Yeah.
But this is complicated to know this stuff. I know so much stuff to help a client. We avert so many problems by just a proper digital setup of the website and content and structure.
Right.
Just because I help them. But if those positions are replaced improperly, or if you order too many people, you won't make jack shit. You'll make no profit.
Right.
None.
Because you're paying all these people to do that work, and there's some things that are not being done as well as you could do them.
And as you add one after another, and one dumb receptionist to another dumb, order taker to some idiot answering the phone to schedule your leads, which we've listened to plenty of plumber calls to where the phone operator person, whoever the hell they are, jack the living hell out of the leads to the point that you didn't even get them on the schedule.
Yeah, we had a client once that the person in their office answering the phone, people were calling in saying, I need, and every plumber out there going to know exactly how much they would want this call, I need a new water heater installed right away.
Yeah.
And the person answering the phone would say, oh, there's nobody here. You're going to have to call back.
And
that's the end. That person went to the next person on the map pack and called somebody else. That was the end of that lead.
That person was paying for clicks, and those were very expensive phone calls.
Yeah.
Hence the reason that you need to brand to get at it.
Yep.
So I want you to be able to be successful. We're here for you in our capacity with what we do, which in my opinion is the biggest part of your marketing is what we help you with. We cannot help you with your whole business, and nor will I be your business coach.
Even though this entire podcast was sort of in that vein.
Yeah.
This is all you get. We're not going to do it one-on-one.
No, I don't mind. Well, I'll talk to people for an hour when I set them up. But yeah, I mean, this is all I can do, really, this sort of stuff. But, I want them to be successful, accomplish your dreams and goals. And my opinion on this stuff is that real profit comes after mastery of a brand and a company, and then your ability to invest some of that money, not just buy stuff directly with it. And I think you can do that. And I think anybody can do that just about. And it takes time, so don't beat yourself up over it. But we definitely can help with the most critical part of it. Right. I mean, the other stuff you'll have to figure out and fix on your own, all the little details that come with the lead and the sale. Everything else, but everything else is a privilege to me at that point.
Yeah.
It can be tedious and frustrating, but everything else is the privilege once you have the lead in the sale, which only comes after you build the brand and the company. So
I don't have anything else on it. I think that was fantastic.
I think we covered it. We rate ourselves 5 stars today.
That was 10 out of 10, Jason.
10 out of 10. Well, this is a 5-star rating system. I wasn't rating this 5 out of 10.
That's true. But yeah, this is our own rating system, though. Yeah. So let's just give
Today it's 10 out of 5.
It's 10 out of 5.
We're amazing.
All right, guys.
Take it easy.
See you.